I'm your host, Tiffany Gilleland, an Australian business and mindset coach with 10 years' experience in online marketing and the creator of the Business Bravery framework. I help coaches to be brave so you can sign more clients even if you hate marketing and sales feel icky. From signing your next paying clients through to launching that dream group coaching program, the Business Bravery framework helps you take bigger leaps without the mindset spirals. It's helped my clients double their investment in me, make thousands of dollars, and truly build their dream business. In today's episode, I want to share the episodes of this podcast that changed me and my business, kind of personally and professionally. And these are genuinely the parts that resonate with me on a daily basis. And they're episodes that cause me to be more brave, more authentic, and increase my income from some of these actions that I took. So it's just like where I took actions to change things in my life and my business. So we're at approximately 52 episodes into the Business Bravery podcast. And for those of you who don't know, when I started this, I started a bit over a year ago. And yes, we were doing one episode a week, and there's been a couple of unplanned production breaks, just with, illness in the family or my own illness. So yeah, that's how that has rolled out. However, it's 52 episodes, and when I started this podcast, I was kind of at my wit's end with my business. I just wasn't enjoying it. I'd done well over 10, I was like 11, coming into 12th year of doing online marketing stuff, where I'd had jobs as an employee, but also done side gigs as a freelancer, and then sort of built a business, and that led into consulting and coaching and all of that good stuff. However, I wasn't having fun. And then I had a coach say to me, so if you had all of the money was in the bank, what would you do? And I immediately went, oh, I'd create the podcast. I would do this, I would do that. And, I'd create a community. I would feature other people. I wouldn't just share my own stuff and everything like that. And for anybody that maybe doesn't know some of my story, when I was first getting started, especially in the coaching side of things, I had a coach, who I invested in, who told me, I wasn't allowed to share other people, that decreased your brand and all of that stuff. And that didn't sit right with me, but it definitely was this voice that whispered in my head a lot. And yeah, just I found when it's that finding your own alignment stuff. When you find your own alignment, then with the strategy and the energy of it and everything like that, it all comes together, then things tend to work out in terms of results. So yeah, anyway, I've found that by creating a community, it just sort of suits who I am as a person and my personality a bit better, just having this community and featuring other people and celebrating bravery from other coaches and, service-based business owners as well, and just all of those of us in this kind of online marketing industry. And yeah, I've gone off on a tangent. None of this was in my dot points. All right. Okay, so on today's episode, I have chosen 3 episodes to feature so that I can keep this short and to the point. And you're going to hear some parts, some little uh, highlights from the episodes themselves, and then I'm going to talk about, okay, here's how this changed me and my thinking, and here's how this really affected me. So just to let you know that this is part 1. There might be a part 2 coming depending on how this episode goes. And I treasure all of the episodes and the guests that I've had. I'm so grateful that people are willing to be a part of this podcast and just share their stories and share their bravery and all of that amazing goodness. I love doing what I do. I love getting to chat with you guys in the DMs every day and hearing your stories of bravery. That's so much fun and so amazing. And there is a long list of episodes that all there's just so many, but these are the top 3 that when it was off the top of my head, here's the 3. I was actually talking to someone, we were recording a podcast, but we were having the chat after the recording, and I was telling her about this episode, and she immediately went, oh, what episodes? What changed your life? And she moved in, and then I started talking about a couple of these, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, now I know what's going to go in my outline. So anyway, let's get into the first episode. So the first episode that I want to feature is episode 13, which is Tracy Raftl. And episode 13 was called Creating Your Authentic Brand, Tracy Raftl's Journey to Success. Tracy is a branding and website expert who built her first successful brand in 2011, or as she calls it, ancient internet times, and helping thousands of women clear their skin and regain their confidence. Now she helps busy coaches bottle up their unique genius into expert brands and personality-fueled websites, making them more money, impact, and time to do what they love.
But I actually got like overrun with sales calls. Like I had so many booked that I was way more than I was expecting. I actually like ran out of space. So I had all of these lined up but then it was like, oh, I actually have to do them now. And I'm absolutely terrified. I feel like this was the moment of my whole business career that was like the most terrifying. It was like doing that first sales call. I remember lying in the bathtub. I assume I was having a bath. I wasn't just like lying in an empty bathtub. I remember being in the bathtub. I was just so anxious. Like I was about to throw up and I was just like, should I just cancel them all? Should I just back out and cancel them all?
So that's when I realized that this podcast was so much bigger and more powerful than I ever expected. Like that story, I tell everybody that story about being in the bathtub. In my version, I imagine her like you know, hands crossed over on her shoulders, and like rocking back and forth in the bathtub, just because that would have been my reaction for quite some time to booking out all of the sales calls, but also some excitement too, but definitely like at different points when I was way more introverted and was so much more afraid of what people might think. And like here's here's the thing, like it wasn't as much of what other people might think or what they might say. It was just I had this voice in my head that had been there since childhood that always had a negative or critical thing to say about everything. Like even if I'm doing something amazing, it would have a snarky comment about how I was doing something wrong. For example, when I started the podcast, and like I have some set questions that I ask people about, brave things you're doing now, in the past, in the future, but then anything that comes up in between those kind of like signposts and the sections. And when a lot of times when somebody would finish what they were saying, I would have sometimes my brain would be completely blank and I wouldn't know what to say just because I was so nervous and just thinking I was going to say the wrong thing. And then other times I would have like 20 questions that I wanted to ask all at the same time. And it's like, which one do you choose? And it didn't matter which question I chose. The voice inside my head would whisper, why did you choose that question? That was a silly question. Nobody cares about that. And yeah, I've had to do some work on some of that. And yeah, luckily that voice is not as strong as it used to be. But yes, this this is why this story was just so powerful for me. It's like that's when I knew that the just that this was more than just people sharing about their launches and things like that. That's what I thought this was going to be in the beginning. And that actually just really sort of vibed with me, like just to be able to have somewhere to come to listen to stories of bravery, especially like on those days where maybe like you just want to give up, or maybe those days where it's like, oh, I have to do this hard thing and I don't want to do it. But then, you remember listening to somebody who was like, oh, you know what? I did the hard thing. And that's how like a lot of my guests affect me and they have no idea. But that like I often, like I remember them talking about their stories. And then it's like when I'm about to do the brave thing, I can remember all of their brave stories and just go, oh, kind of like borrow from their bravery and just be braver myself. So, yes, that's kind of when things changed and the way I talked about the podcast changed a bit, and it was just, I don't know, it fit me and was more authentic. So, talking about authentic, because this is really interesting, the rest of the podcast was about being your authentic self. And when I had this conversation with Tracy, it was really at a time where I was being being brave enough to be more of my authentic self. So previous to this, like I had felt like I had to be in the role of the online marketer, and that the perfect online marketer, and that I had to get everything right and be perfect because I was teaching people and trying to model how to do this stuff. The thing is that my personality naturally is actually a little bit messy at times. It's a little bit chaotic, and but also, oh gosh, I kind of hate saying that because it's like, oh, chaotic. But at the same time, like I have a lot of structure, and I have things planned in advance and things like that. But then there are times where I just get really inspired to do something in the spirit of the moment, and that's a lot of fun too. And I kind of need, like, I like having both of that energy, but I've kind of felt like I couldn't show that spontaneous side so much as well. So at the time of recording this yesterday, I did chaos in the kitchen with Tiff, where I did kind of like a live while I was trying to make my lunch, and also at the same time trying to do some like talking about like business stuff at the same time. And I don't do too well doing two different things at once like that. Like if I'm doing two things at once, it's like I'm listening to a podcast while I do the dishes. It's like, like one's more automatic, but it's just like having to, yeah. Anyway, so that was fun, and definitely like really impromptu. And I found like sometimes those go really well, other times those land flat and people are like, oh, what are you doing? And oh, I don't get it. So yeah. Anyway, it's just that whole being my authentic self. Like I just didn't, it was just really great to have that conversation with her, and at a time when I was feeling like exploring that more and showing that more to people on the outside, and believing that the real me is okay, because just for most of my life I'd been holding it back.
That's what I love so much about branding, is that you put yourself out there so authentically, and in order to attract the right people to you, instead of, I don't know, I think about for example, just like if you didn't have a brand, or you didn't have like a presence, maybe you didn't have a website, you didn't have any online presence, like how are you going to get clients? You probably have to go, knock on doors and cold call or whatever. I don't know, however people get clients like that. And you, again, you're trying to like prove themselves to you, or yourself to them. Where is branding, you just get to be yourself and attract the people who, like what you're putting out there. And to me, that's very exciting.
So much of Tracy's wisdom I find really inspires me on a daily basis. And I'm here to talk about bravery and being more brave and authentic, and just stepping out of my shell. And even at the time when I like recorded this episode or put it out there, like I had this situation where like my husband asked me to go to the chemist for him, the pharmacy. I had to ask all of these awkward questions about his medical stuff. And like I know in a lot of situations it'd just be like, make him do it himself, but he won't. And I just wanted to help alleviate symptoms and things. So I went to the chemist, and it's like having to ask awkward questions about medical stuff. And like it's this open air thing, everybody can hear you, and it's a small town as well, so you just have no idea who knows who. But I did the thing, like the old me would have just been like, no, all right, I'm not doing it, or just would have gone there and grabbed something off the shelf. But no, I went through the awkward conversation, asked the awkward questions about the health stuff. And, it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, is it like this? Is it like that? And it's just, oh man, just, oh, I mean, even talking about it now, my heart's starting to race a bit more. But yes, I did the thing, and I came out and I was like, I was brave, I did the thing. And it's like when you do some of those, like I know they don't seem brave. It's just like, oh, you had an awkward conversation. But that whole secondhand embarrassment thing, like when I used to watch TV shows and things, and you feel the embarrassment for the character, and I couldn't handle it. And I just fast forward those sections. I'd just be like, yeah, I get it, I can't handle it. And that's some of the stuff that I'm learning to kind of really come to grips with at the moment, because like we have to do things that are outside of our comfort zone, and the more of that stuff we can move through faster, the easier it can be. The next episode is episode 16 from Kelly McIntee. Now, episode 16, spaciousness, boundaries, and letting go in your coaching business with Coach Kelly McIntee is the name of the episode. And Kelly McIntee is a life and business mindset coach for creative entrepreneurs. She helps you step out of your nice girl energy and into your bold woman energy.
I'm really desiring more spaciousness in my business. And with that comes some like restructuring and setting up some more clearer, stronger boundaries, getting more like precise with my time and my actions and what I'm doing. And so that's like my current act of bravery, I feel like. I feel like the bravery of it is like letting myself not have to be everything to everyone, even to my kids, even to my, like that it's okay for us to have help in our home to take care of them so I can like have focused time in my business, because that actually makes me be a better mom when I'm not like working, when I'm giving my business that focused attention. And so I think that's like the brave act, is like letting go that I have to be the one to accommodate everything for everybody. Like
Wow.
sometimes the schedule just doesn't work and we are all going to be okay.
This episode was and continues to be extremely powerful for me in my business, especially as I have to balance my health, caring for members of my family, and also my business and caring for my clients and things like that. Caring's a weird word to put there, but it sort of feels appropriate, even though that caring looks different and there's different boundaries to it and things like that. There's still like balancing other people, what other people need and want from me versus what I need and want for myself. So just that whole letting go that I have to be the one to accommodate everything for everybody, like that was a message that I needed at that time that changed so much for me. Like it was so powerful. And the thing is, it's like for someone like me who has learned to be quite capable, caring for a parent, an aging parent with special needs or some special needs, part-time, caring like, for my husband in different ways, but he also has chronic health stuff. I have chronic health stuff, illnesses and the like. So just so many times in the past too, like I've just been doing way too much for my clients, especially when I was doing more services rather than coaching, just because I could see the vision for them and they couldn't necessarily see it and things like that. So just, yeah, just like the ability to say no to opportunities. And as I say this, I'm wondering if there's a couple of opportunities this week I should have said no to. Just even putting in things like a 24-hour overnight hold before I say yes to anything so I can think about it. Because the thing about your business, like my business, especially our businesses, like we enjoy them, and like our businesses, they grow in complexity over time. Like there's more moving parts, more things happening, that kind of stuff. But this is where like I genuinely started speaking up more and, telling my husband, hey, I need your help with this. It's like I need to take something off my to-do list. And for those of you who get this, it's like having the ability to be like, okay, like, I need your help with this, and being okay that he does it on his own timeline. Not that I'm somebody who's like tapping my watch going, you haven't done this yet, but there's definitely been times where it's like the relief of just knowing that that's not on my to-do list helped me to get my to-do list done. And then I had time and it's like, oh, I can go do that now. And so then that just sends this message that when I ask for help, he doesn't necessarily have to do it straight away. And then like he's kind of like, why should I bother, and things like that. Or he could be, I don't know. So yeah, it's just, but like saying, hey, I need your help with this, or like, drawing boundaries with my mother and my clients, like especially, like DMs and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, like just being okay that I can't do it all. And that's the hardest part. I hate admitting that I can't do it all. Right? Because yeah, like if hard work was the answer, I would have won the prize years ago. But anyway. I was brave enough to change up like how my podcast works too. There's that whole like not being all things to all people can definitely lead into a lot of accidental overworking and making things more complicated than they needed to be. So it's like I changed some things up. So it's like, okay, there's one easy email that's like a template in my Gmails. Somebody gives me their email and I can send it within 2 seconds, 5 seconds or something, as long as it takes me to copy and paste their email address in, send them all the info so that they can book in. And then there's like one folder for bios and like just not having to, I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, some of that. There was also some things about doing things in batches and some of that stuff too, so that I could do things.
Telling the people in my personal life like what I do. Like I joke like I hid out on the internet. I was really afraid to tell my next door neighbors what I do.
This other part of the podcast, and just, you go and listen to the whole thing. It's amazing. But just this part where it's like hiding out on the internet, like that was me for years. And after I recorded this, I don't think I'd even put it out into the world. After I'd recorded this, I was in a conversation with somebody in my local shopping center, small mall type situation. And yeah, she had a little pop-up store and was selling Ugg boots, right? You guys would know what those are. They originated with us in Australia. So yeah, and I was talking to her and she was like, oh, because I was looking at something in her store and I was like, oh, hey, this is the same colors as my brand for my business. She's like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a business coach and I do marketing and stuff. She's like, oh, I need help. And then we exchanged numbers and that kind of thing. And just was like, oh, just that bravery to just be like, yeah, I'm a business coach and I help people with marketing and growing their business and things. Just to be that person like locally, like the old me would have just been like, oh yeah, I do stuff online with marketing, nothing. But it's like a whole different thing when I just like stood into my power and was like, hey, I'm a business coach and I help people and that kind of stuff. So there's been a couple of those locally that have led to people going, oh, I need your help. And like I find that amazing because it's like online, we just have to work so much harder for people to respond that way. But face to face, people get a vibe about you or some energy and stuff like that. And then they can just be instantly like, oh yeah, I need help with that. I need your help. So yeah, it's just funny how that works. The other thing just about that whole the spaciousness and her like don't have to be all things to all people. So yeah, it's just amazing how like as well for myself, but then probably as women as well, we just learn this whole we have to be all the things to all the people. Um yeah, especially if you're the competent one or the one who just always does the thing, gets things done or something like that. And if you're an entrepreneur and you've learnt these skills, then it's easy to do more of this stuff in your personal life as well. So yeah. The other thing about the podcast too is like she talks about like her relationship with her father and how that pushed her as well. And just that really resonated with me as well. The next episode, episode 29 from Kim Willis. This is the last one. And episode 29 is called Overcoming Fear from Door-to-Door Sales to Public Speaking with Coach Kim Willis. Now, Kim, he is an experienced coach and online business expert. Kim shared his journey from starting out in sales to transitioning into the online world. He began his career in sales, initially struggling, but eventually finding success in selling intangible products. And this skill set later proved valuable when he ventured into selling online opportunities and services.
People who sometimes struggle with sales is they haven't mastered or even tried to master the fine art of conversation. I've sold millions of dollars worth of products over the years when I was in the financial services industry, but it was all about conversations. So I just thought, to hell with that. I'm not going to follow the script. I'm going to do it the way I believe it should be done, and I'm going to prove that it can work. And as a result of that, making money and all the rest of it, the company ended up asking me to run global trainings on how to handle the phone. So I was vindicated.
So this episode helped me double my income, and this month that I recorded this, the month that I recorded this, like this episode with Kim ages ago, I nearly doubled my income as I just leaned into the identity of mastering the conversation and just started more conversations. So this was where like I had to let go of the pressure to have the right words and to get people on calls or get them to buy, and just approach things as being interested in people and trusting in myself that I had the skills to create relationships that lead to sales and opportunities and collaborations.
We're on social media for a reason. One of the reasons would be about building relationships, right? So let's do that. Let's open a relationship. But you've got to have the right words to say, otherwise they might pull back and ghost something. We don't want that. So I sent out a bunch, and I'll be sending out some more this week. I want to catch up with all the backlog. So it's all about messaging. And the more effective we are at communicating with people via our messaging, the more money we're going to make. That's the end result.
Kim's point about practice and becoming more effective over time gave me the ability to try more things in the DMs. And especially like he talks about like not just following the scripts and kind of just like being a human and connecting with people and things like that. And that's stuff that I genuinely enjoy doing. There's just can often be this voice in the back of your head that it's like, I saw somebody selling a script. Maybe they've thought of something that I haven't thought of, but like that's not how relationships with other people work. Like, you know, everybody's relationship with others is unique. And that's why I don't enjoy scripts. I tend to find that they tend to repel more people than they attract, just in my experience. Although there can be kind of like a guide or that kind of thing, but like having exact scripts for exact things that you say, I think people pick up on that stuff. I had somebody in my DMs asking me, oh, hey, I've got some questions because we're developing this thing. Do you mind? And yeah, yet I know like it's probably the beginning of a sales spiel. And yeah, it's just like it feels very formulaic and the connection's not there. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless something changes, we're in the middle of this conversation and probably won't like my answers because she's like, oh, is this what you're challenged with? A, B, or C? And I'm like, oh, D, this other thing actually. So she might not come back with any other questions. There's like, you know, I've self-selected myself out. But yeah. So anyway, something else in Kim's episode where it's like I asked him about like his days handling the phones, and especially like as an introvert. That's why this episode is so powerful, and I should have said that earlier. But anyway, I was kind of asking him about like what was it like coming back in on Monday after the weekend break? Like, was it harder to get started on the phones again? And he said, yes, it was. And he kind of had to like psych himself up. And part of like how he would psych himself up, actually, this part kind of gets me. This is not something that I recommend. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can appreciate where he comes from on this. Was he would have to get angry at himself to like, or just get angry and feel the anger to make himself do it. It's like, just do it. And like, that's how he would sort of like get through that resistance. And I had this where I was talking to somebody recently where she's talking about doing like a live challenge, and immediately after saying I want to do this live challenge, then it's like this whole wall comes up between her and doing it. And we often have that with creative stuff. It's quite normal. So yeah, it's just yeah, it was just interesting. It was to hear that like that's how he got through it. Now I like that's not something that I enjoy. I find like for me going through that anger, like I'd be worried that would come out in my conversation with people. But it definitely was in my head of like, actually, you know what? We can move through this. And it's like I could like borrow that bravery or that belief and just go, you know what? I'm just gonna do this. And it's like, yeah, let's do it. And for me, that's what gets me to do things. Is like, oh, you know, let's just do this. Let's get psyched. And I know a lot of what I talk about is like, you know, moving through the bravery and the thought work and things like that. But for some things, like to make myself pick up the phone, because while I'm not 100% a millennial, I'm very close to the millennials. And I've never enjoyed talking on the phone as much. Like I like Zoom. I can see facial expressions. It gives me a lot of information. I feel more comfortable. I can know if you're tuning out. On the phone, I don't know, I've always had to like concentrate 10 times harder to follow the conversation and make sure I have the right words and things like that. So I find it far more stressful. So yeah, but it just was anyway, this story of his and just that whole, like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we can do this, and just that kind of thing, I kind of borrowed that. And it was really great to hear that it wasn't just me that had that whole, you go away for the weekend and then like you get out of the sales mode and then having to get back into sales mode, especially with, some more introverted tendencies on some of that stuff, right? But yeah, it got easier to get into the zone. And I often think about his whole thing, like, while, like I said, I don't get angry, but it just, like, I have that whole getting psyched moment. And oftentimes like I'll listen to music or things like that. And yeah, just those sorts of things to get psyched to make the move. Like even after I've done all of the visualizations and all of the thought work and got the great things, there's still this moment where it's like you kind of have to take that step, and there is a little bit of feel the fear and do it anyway on that side of things. It's just, it helps if you've got the thought work and the thoughts to help you move through that and the visualizing and all of that stuff. But there is this moment of commitment. I think that's maybe the word I'm looking for. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I talked for so long. Commitment. That's what it is. It's this commitment. Anyway, so the other part of this is the very last point for this episode. It's just the whole being able to drop the idea completely that I had to be somehow better than I am now. And I, like I have, like, yes, I have to get into the zone and like get to that moment of commitment. I think I like that word. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that I'm broken, that I'm not doing it properly, that I haven't done the thought work properly or the visualizing properly. It's just that's part of my process at this stage. And perhaps at some point after doing it enough, like I am with the DMs or with the DM voice notes, like when I was first doing DM voice notes, I would practice them out loud before I hit record to make sure I had the words. My brain has this thing about not being able to find the words when I'm speaking. So much easier to read and write. You've got even read and write in like instant chat. Yes, but it's like a whole different section of my brain that works on the listening and speaking. So that's where this podcast has been good. And as you know, once I get started, I tend to talk for too long. So Kim's episode is amazing, and like definitely check it out if you've got some more introverted tendencies and want to just some input on sales. Like I said, just his whole thing about conversations, his amazing stories about doing public speaking and not doing it well in the first time, and then going back and just being like, right, I'm gonna sort this out. And just that was so similar to a lot of my experiences that I just really vibed with what he was saying. So if you listen to this episode, please just thank you. And please come over to IG, to Instagram at Tiffany G Studios. Let me know that you listened, right? Tiffany, G for golf, Studios, no spaces, no underscores, none of that stuff. If this episode, or if you go on to listen to the longer episodes and they made an impact on you, I would love to hear about that. If there are different episodes of this podcast that have helped you take action in your business, I would love to know that, because I would love to do a version of this where it's like, here's what the audience loves. And even if you didn't listen to the whole episode, it was just a little section or something, like, let me know. I just would really love to know like what's resonating. But I don't know, like I just needed you guys to know, like, this episode, this podcast has had an impact on my business. And yeah, just I would love to know if it's had any kind of impact in yours, even seeing, oh, actually you guys won't hear this, but the people who just watch the reels, like maybe that's enough. But yeah, anyway, like to get inspired. I've had a few people say to me, oh wow, ever since meeting you, I felt braver and I felt like I could just do more brave things. and they don't necessarily have to follow me, or like they've just been in touch with me. And yeah, it's just amazing. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. And that's it from me. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Business Bravery podcast. Has this episode inspired you to do something brave? Even if it's only send a difficult email, please share it with me on Instagram or other social media channels. Feel free to tag me at Tiffany G Studios. That's TIFFANY. G for golf, STUDIOS, no spaces, no underscores, etc. Or you can use the hashtag Business Bravery Podcast so that I can cheer you on, and together we can inspire other coaches and course creators to do brave things in their business and life. Now, I'm Tiffany, and I'll leave you with this one last thing. What's one brave thing you're going to do today? It doesn't have to be big. Even the smallest steps can create the most massive results. So again, feel free to share it with me either publicly or privately so that I can cheer you on. That's it from me. Until next time, bye for now.